The anime begins with a group of bad guys who are sneaking stolen jewelry through the airport. As they try to escape in their car, a cool hitman named Suwa Rei, riding a motorcycle, starts chasing after them. Soon after, the bad guys' bodyguards try to stop Rie by shooting at him, but he manages to keep up with their car. At that time, Rie works together with his colleague, Kurusu Kazuki, who cleverly pretends to be the driver of the bad guy's car and takes care of the bodyguards inside. Eventually, they catch the bad guys. Then, they take the bad guys to a quiet place to ask them questions. But suddenly, Kazuki gets a phone call saying his daughter is sick, so they quickly finish their work with the bad guys and rush home. A few months ago, Kazuki did something sneaky. He took some information from a woman named Nakio while she was in the bathroom. After he finished his secret job, he went back home to where he lived with Rie. Rie was a guy who didn't really hang out with anyone except Kazuki. When Kazuki got home, he saw that Rie had found a stray cat and brought it inside. But Kazuki quickly put the cat back outside. This made Rie upset, and while they were eating together, Kazuki explained that their dangerous job as assassins could put the animals they lived with in danger. He talked about his wife, who was pregnant and got killed because she was targeted by his enemies. Soon after, Kazuki told Rie about their next mission, which was on Christmas Day. They had to take down a guy named Atsushi Hayami, who was involved in human trafficking. That night, they met their informant Kuti Kutaro, who gave them money for the mission. Kazuki also tried to send some money to someone, but Kutaro said that person always refused it. After getting the money, Kazuki went to a casino and ended up losing all his money, even his clothes. He had to walk back home in the cold. When he passed the place where he had put the cat earlier, he felt relieved because someone had taken care of the cat. The next day on Christmas, while the city was bustling with joyful celebrations, a 4-year-old girl named Onisaka Miri was spotted walking alone in the city. Meanwhile, Kazuki was busy baking cakes for his mission to take down Hayami, a tough target to catch. Luckily, Hayami had planned a Christmas party at a hotel, so Kazuki decided to make a cake as a distraction to sneak into the party. At the same time, Rie was getting ready, preparing his weapons in his room. As for Miri, she was seen entering the same hotel where Kazuki and Rie were going to carry out their mission. A little later, Kazuki had finished making his cake and dressed up as Santa Claus to blend in. Soon after, he approached the guards who were securing the elevator to Hanami's party room. One of the guards noticed Kazuki and called his superior to inform them about the cake being delivered to the party room. Unexpectedly, the call went to Kutaro's cell phone, and he pretended to be the guard's boss, instructing all the guards to let Kazuki in. With that, Kazuki was able to enter the party room. Just as Kazuki got into the elevator, Miri suddenly hopped in and asked if she could have some of the cake he had brought. She explained that she came to the hotel to meet her father and asked Kazuki, who was dressed as Santa Claus, to grant her wish. At that time, Kazuki was confused, and Miri's presence threw a wrench into his mission. He had to focus on protecting her because the guards were chasing her. Luckily, Rie managed to stop the guards, and because of the chaos, Kazuki and Rie had to launch a direct attack in the party room. Sadly, Miri also ended up as a hostage in the hands of Hayami. This forced Kazuki to distract the guards by revealing himself and using a tray as a shield. He pretended to be Miri's father, and she jumped into his arms. On the other side, Rie completed the mission by taking out all the guards and killing Hayami. With the mission accomplished, Rie left through the hotel window, while Kazuki joined the other party guests, still holding Miri to avoid suspicion. Fortunately, they managed to get back home safely. Since there was no other option, Kazuki took Miri home. After some investigation, they discovered that Miri was the daughter of an illicit relationship between Hayami and Onisaka Misaki. The next morning, Miri's presence made Kazuki and Rie's house feel more lively. At that time, Kazuki struggled when Miri needed to use the bathroom, so he asked Rie to help entertain her while he prepared breakfast. Rie also found it challenging as Miri was messing up his game collection. After they all had breakfast, Kazuki and Rie began searching for more information about Misaki, who seemed unhappy about Miri's birth and wanted to give her to Hayami. Unfortunately, Hayami was killed during their mission, so they couldn't take Miri to her biological father. Reporting Miri's whereabouts to the police was not an option because they were contract killers and didn't want to reveal their identities. So they decided to find Misaki's address by asking Miri and searching government records. They'd only discovered that Misaki worked at a karaoke place. With limited information, they had to visit Kyutaro, their informant, to gather more details. When they reached Kyutaro's place, he scolded them for the mess at Hayami's party, which had made it into the newspaper news. There, Kyutaro warned Kazuki and Rie that if they caused trouble on their next mission, they might lose their jobs. Soon after, he gave them another mission and some upfront money to get started. Then, Kazuki asked about Miri, but Kyutaro admitted he had no information about her and planned to find out. After Kazuki and Rie left, a new assassin named Ogino Ryo came to Kyutaro seeking a job and gave him his phone number. When Kazuki and Rie got home, they were shocked to find their house in disarray, thinking it had been burglarized. However, they soon discovered that Miri had made the mess while playing hide-and-seek. During dinner, Kazuki checked information about their next target, a drug dealer with very tight security. He told Rie they needed a plan to infiltrate the heavily guarded house without arousing suspicion. There, Rie casually suggested a direct attack, but Kazuki reminded him that making mistakes could anger Kyutaro and cost them their jobs. In the middle of their discussion, Miri approached Kazuki and mentioned that her mother's hamburgers were tastier. This gave Kazuki an idea to infiltrate the mission target's house with Rie. They prepared their equipment and were about to leave for the mission when Miri started crying, not wanting to be left alone at home. This caught the attention of their neighbors. To avoid suspicion from the neighbors, Kazuki had no choice but to bring Miri along on the mission. A little later, Rie decided to take a secret route by the sea to sneak into the heavily guarded area around the target's house. When he reached the target's place, he got ready with his sniper rifle to take down the illegal drug dealer. On the other hand, Kazuki dressed up as a service worker and planned to enter to neutralize the guards. But just as he was about to put his plan into action, Miri, who was waiting in the car, suddenly honked the horn because she needed to use the bathroom. At that time, Kazuki asked her to hold it and rushed into the target's house. Kazuki managed to trick the guard at the gate and pretended to work in the CCTV room. There, he surprised a guard, subdued him, and planted a listening device in the room. After leaving the CCTV room, he was shocked to find Miri coming out of the house's bathroom. When Miri called him father, his cover was blown, and the guards started chasing Kazuki, who was trying to catch Miri. They ended up in the target's room. Even though Kazuki managed to capture Miri, he was surrounded by armed guards. Fortunately, Rie intervened, fight the guards, and gave Kazuki and Miri a chance to escape. Soon after, Rie swiftly took his colleague and Miri on a speedboat, even though they hadn't completed their mission. During the escape, Kazuki scolded Miri, telling her not to call him father outside the house. However, Miri didn't seem bothered and was busy enjoying the view of the sea. When Kazuki got home, he received a message from Kyutaro, saying that another assassin had been hired to finish the mission and that they had found Misaki's address. The following day, Rai had a dream about his difficult past, but he was awakened by Miri, who wanted to have breakfast with him. At that time, Kazuki only prepared cereal and milk for their morning meal. Since their previous mission had failed, they planned to meet Kyutaro to discuss the mission and get help in finding Misaki's complete address. During their conversation, Rie asked if Kazuki was willing to return Miri to her mother, even though he had seen that Kazuki cared deeply for her. Kazuki explained that they had no choice but to give Miri back to her parents because their dangerous work could put her life at risk. When Kazuki arrived at Kyutaro's place, Kyutaro seemed irritated by Kazuki's previous mission failure. However, he still gave Kazuki a chance to make things right and provided information about Misaki. After obtaining the address, Kazuki quickly left Kyutaro's place and invited Rie to take Miri to the park while he thought about how to return Miri to her mother. While Kazuki was buying drinks, Miri, who was with Rie, went to play on the swings alone. Shortly after, a security guard approached her, concerned that she might be a kidnapping victim. Miri didn't answer the guard's questions until Kazuki returned and claimed to be her father. Kazuki was surprised that Miri didn't tell the guard that he was her father, but she explained that he had told her not to call him father in front of others. But there, Kazuki didn't say anything and invited both Miri and Rie to go home. At night, Miri wanted to sleep together with them, but Kazuki refused. So she quietly went to Rie's room and was surprised to find him sleeping in the bathtub as a precaution. Soon after, Miri climbed into the bathtub and fell asleep, while Rie chose to leave and let her sleep there. On another day, Kazuki and Rie prepared to take Miri to Misaki. When they arrived at the address provided by Kyutaro, Kazuki decided to check the situation first, leaving Rie and Miri in the car. Inside the bar where Misaki worked, Kazuki heard a song that Miri had sung before, confirming that Misaki worked there. He approached the female singer he thought was Misaki, but a man confronted him. There, Kazuki defended himself and left the bar after the man was beaten up, but Misaki scolded Kazuki for his actions against the bar patrons. On the other hand, Miri was getting impatient while waiting and kept asking to go for a walk. She convinced Rie to take her to a nearby park. Soon after, Rie accompanied her, and they played some games in the park. During a break, Rie asked Miri why she called Kazuki father. Innocently, Miri explained that anyone who saved her from danger was like father to her. Hearing this, Rie remembered his own childhood when his father mistreated him instead of protecting him. He got lost in thought about his past and didn't notice that Miri had gone out to play on her own. Back at the bar, Misaki seemed to be tending to Kazuki's injuries from the fight. He asked about Miri, but Misaki didn't seem to welcome her daughter into her life and had no intention of taking care of her. There, Kazuki mentioned how much Miri loved her mother's hamburgers, but Misaki admitted she bought them from the supermarket. She also confessed that she often mistreated Miri because her biological father had abandoned her. After this conversation, Kazuki realized that Misaki was not the right person to care for Miri, so he abandoned the idea of giving Miri to her and left the bar. Meanwhile, Rie began searching for Miri, who had suddenly disappeared. He finally found her with two police officers who were trying to help her. At first, Rie hesitated and thought about leaving Miri, but he changed his mind after hearing her call him father. He remembered his own past when he wasn't treated as a son, so he approached Miri and identified himself as her father to the police officers. Kazuki learned about this and invited Rie to go home with Miri, whom they decided to take care of together. When dinner time came, Kazuki prepared a hamburger he had bought from the supermarket, which made Miri happy. After they finished dinner, Miri, who was about to sleep, begged Kazuki and Rie to sleep together, and they couldn't resist her request, so they all slept together that night. In the morning, Miri, who had been living with Kazuki and Rie for a while, tried to help with household chores like washing, cooking, and even joined Rie in exercising. However, her efforts actually left Kazuki and Rie exhausted because she made a mess of everything. To keep her busy and prevent further chaos at home, they took Miri to the park while they rested on a bench. While at the park, they saw a school bus passing by and got the idea to enroll Miri in school to keep her occupied and away from home antics. Once they got back home, Kazuki immediately began looking for information about nearby preschools. It explained to Miri that she would be going to a school where she'd meet lots of other children and make new friends. After some online research, Kazuki found several preschools close to their home and started contacting them to register Miri as a new student. Unfortunately, the school informed him that he needed to complete some paperwork at the public services office before Miri could be enrolled. Despite being annoyed by the bureaucratic process, when they saw how excited Miri was about going to school, Kazuki and Rie reluctantly went to the public service office. After waiting in a long and tedious line, they finally got their turn to complete the necessary paperwork. Kazuki was surprised to find out that there were many forms to fill out before enrolling a child in preschool. Frustrated with the paperwork, Kazuki thought about throwing it away, but Miri stopped him and started crying because she really wanted to go to school like other children. Seeing her so upset, Kazuki decided to falsify some of the documents to keep their identities as contract killers hidden from the public. During this time, Rie accidentally mentioned their dirty work to Miri. There, she asked about it, but Rie told her she didn't need to know. The following day, they went back to the public service office, and after submitting all the required documents, Kazuki and Rie took Miri to register at a nearby preschool. During the registration process, the school principal was surprised to see that Miri had two fathers. In the middle of the interview, Miri unexpectedly started talking about Kazuki's cooking skills and his talent for handling paperwork. There, she also mentioned Rie's role as someone who did dangerous tasks and was an expert marksman. Concerned about raising suspicions, Kazuki and Rie decided to abandon their plan to enroll Miri in that school. While searching for another school, Kazuki reminded Miri not to casually reveal such information because it could make it difficult for her to be accepted anywhere. Miri agreed because she really wanted to start school soon. They soon arrived at Aozora Nursery School and met a staff member named Hunyu Anna. Similar to the previous school, Kazuki and Rie faced several questions, including why they wanted to enroll Miri. Their Kazuki explained that he and Rie were quite busy, so they thought it would be best for Miri to study and socialize with other kids at school. Miri seemed to behave well and follow Kazuki's instructions, which led to her being accepted at the school. With Miri's enrollment in school, the three of them celebrated with a simple dinner. However, when Kazuki and Rie realized the various preparations required before Miri started school, they were surprised by the extensive list of items they needed to buy. The next day, they all went shopping at a mall, where Kazuki and Rie purchased luxurious school supplies for Miri, including clothes and other school stuff. After finishing their shopping, Kazuki and Rie were surprised to learn about the rule that required them to label all of Miri's school items to avoid confusion with other students' belongings. Since Miri was starting school the next day, Kazuki and Rie had to stay up all night labeling her items. On the following day, Kazuki and Rie drove Miri to school in a luxury car, which attracted the attention of other parents. Then, Anna, a school staff member, informed Kazuki and Rie about Miri's assigned class. She also asked for Miri's diary, but Kazuki actually gave her a diary with some notes written in it. He even left lunch for Miri, but Anna explained that the school had prepared lunch for all the students in the afternoon. Kazuki and Rie felt a bit disappointed, especially since Kazuki had stayed up late to prepare lunch. A little later, Kazuki and Rie were relieved that they could now focus on their work without any interruptions from Miri. Meanwhile, Miri was seen at the playground, feeling lonely as her classmates avoided playing with her out of fear of dirtying her expensive clothes. Kazuki and Rie went to Kyutaro's place to relax and discuss job opportunities after their chat with the informant. Later, they headed to the school to pick up Miri, and Kazuki asked her about her first day at school. Miri remained silent, as she hadn't found a friend yet. In the following days, Miri continued to look gloomy after returning from school. One day, Kazuki noticed her playing alone in the classroom and asked Anne about Miri's situation at school. Anne explained that Miri was consistently being avoided by her classmates because of her expensive clothes, which made her stand out. She suggested that Kazuki buy Miri regular school attire like the other students. There, Kazuki admitted that he didn't know where to shop for such clothes, so Anna recommended a children's supply store. The next day, Kazuki and Rie followed Anna's recommendation and took Miri to the store to buy school supplies. They were surprised to find that the items were very affordable, so they ended up buying a lot. On another day, Kazuki decided to take Miri to school by bicycle to keep things simple. However, Miri still felt hesitant about inviting her friends to play, even though her appearance now matched theirs. Observing this, Kazuki invited all the children to play ball with him, which eventually led to them including Miri. After that day, Miri became more excited about going to school. As a special treat, Kazuki and Rie gave her a beautiful new room. Sometime later, Kazuki began to worry about the increasing expenses for his family, especially after they bought many school supplies for Miri. The situation was worsened by the fact that Kyutaro hadn't been providing them with jobs. There, Kazuki reminded everyone to save money and mentioned that if they didn't work, Rie wouldn't be able to buy the latest video games or enjoyed pudding as a dessert after meals. Hearing this, Rie and Miri were shocked, realizing that their family's financial situation was getting worse. As a result, when Miri went to school, Kazuki and Rie went to Kyutaro's place and pleaded for him to give them some jobs. Seeing their determination, Kyutaro finally assigned them a substantial amount of work to be completed within a week. Despite the tight deadline, Kazuki accepted the tasks and rushed home with Rie to discuss the missions they received from Kyutaro. When they got back home, Kazuki and Rie discussed how to divide their tasks for the missions they had to complete. Suddenly, Kazuki received a phone call from Anna, informing them that the school would be temporarily closed due to a virus outbreak, and students were advised to study from home. This news shocked Kazuki and Rie, especially since they had just received assignments with tight deadlines. Shortly after hearing the news from Anna, they picked up Miri from school. On the way home, Miri suggested going to the park, but they declined, explaining that they had to work. However, Miri was curious about what Kazuki and Rie did for work because she had homework from Anna to describe her father's jobs when all the students returned to school. Kazuki couldn't reveal his job as an assassin, so he remained silent. Meanwhile, Rie tried to leave, but Miri blocked his way and insisted on an answer. In the evening, Kazuki and Rie looked exhausted after taking care of Miri all day, but they had to continue working. Kazuki even tried to wake up a sleeping Rai at the dining table to get him to finish his work. Realizing that they couldn't complete their work optimally, Kazuki decided to meet with Kyutaro the next day to discuss the situation. When he saw Miri engrossed in watching TV, Kazuki approached the still sleeping Rai in the bathroom and asked for his help in looking after Miri, while he went to meet Kyutaro. Even though Rai was still asleep, Kazuki put on his shoes to leave, but Miri noticed and asked him not to go. At that time, Kazuki asked Miri to keep Rai company while he was away. However, when Miri went to the bathroom to invite Rai to play, she found him still asleep. This annoyed her, so she decided to sneak out of the house to follow Kazuki. She seemed happy as she wandered outside the house, but her excitement faded when she lost sight of Kazuki in an alley. She got distracted by a cute dog on the street and ended up losing track of where Kazuki went. She tried to find him by walking through several streets. Back at home, Rai woke up and was shocked to discover that Miri had disappeared. He immediately called Kazuki, who had just arrived at Kyutaro's place, to inform him about the situation with Miri. Kazuki received Rie's call and felt panicked, rushing back home. At the same time, Miri continued to roam the city streets, desperately searching for Kazuki, who had already returned home with Rie. Because they can't find Miri, they decided to search for her outside the house, exploring various places where she might have gone. Meanwhile, while walking in an alley, Miri accidentally bumped into a tall and stocky man named Rio. Fortunately, Rio wasn't upset with her and quickly apologized for the collision. Just as Rio walked away, Kyutaro emerged from a nearby bar and noticed Miri. Meanwhile, Kazuki and Rie were getting exhausted from their search for Miri in different places. Eventually, they decided to enter Kyutaro's bar to take a break. As they walked into the bar, they were shocked to find Miri sitting there, sipping on a juice made by Kyutaro. Soon after, Kazuki quickly picked up Miri, and she called both Kazuki and Rai her fathers, which made Kyutaro start to become suspicious. To cover up the situation, Kazuki told a lie to Kyutaro, saying that their client had asked them to look after Miri. When Kyutaro went to the back of the bar, Kazuki whispered to Miri, asking her not to refer to them as her fathers in front of Kyutaro. Later, when Kyutaro asked about the work he had assigned them, Kazuki explained that they hadn't completed it because they couldn't get proper rest. Kyutaro suspected that they were busy taking care of Miri, so he offered to look after her while Kazuki and Rie focused on their work, wanting them to prioritize their tasks. Upon returning home to gather some of Miri's belongings to take to Kyutaro's place, Kazuki and Rie were worried that Kyutaro might harm them if he found out they were taking care of Miri. Therefore, before leaving, Kazuki asked Miri not to say anything strange to Kyutaro. Shortly after that, Kazuki and Rie took Miri to Kyutaro's place before heading out to complete their work. At the bar, Kyutaro handed Miri a glass of juice and started asking her questions like her name and where she lived. Meanwhile, Kazuki, who was on his way to complete a mission with Rie, expressed relief that he could focus on his work without worrying about Miri. However, Rie mentioned that Kyutaro was skilled at winning the hearts of women, which made Kazuki imagine Miri marrying Kyutaro. Kazuki didn't want that to happen, so he planned to finish his job quickly and pick up Miri from Kyutaro's place. Miri, still curious about Kazuki and Rie's jobs, asked Kyutaro about them. He explained that their work was special and couldn't be disclosed. Kyutaro added that Kazuki worked as a comedian, making people laugh, and Rie was a wealthy oil magnate. At the same time, Kazuki was sneaking into a building through a ventilation hole to complete a mission from Kyutaro. He worried that Miri might reveal the secret of living with him and Rie to his informant, even considering canceling his mission. At the bar, Miri drew pictures of Kazuki and Rie as comedians and oil magnates. When Kyutaro asked her to go home, she refused, insisting on going home with Kazuki and Rie. Kyutaro became suspicious and asked tricky questions, leading Miri to start revealing her two fathers' secrets. Hearing Miri describing Kazuki and Rie's habits at home, Kyutaro realized that she lived with his colleague. That evening, after Kazuki and Rie had finished their work, they hurried to Kyutaro's bar to pick up Miri. She had fallen asleep in a chair while waiting for them. As Kazuki held her, she started calling him and Rie father in her delirium, causing panic for both Kazuki and Rie. At that time, Kyutaro overheard this and told them that he already knew their secrets, asking them not to lie to him again. Some time later, after Miri returned to school, She told her classmates and their parents about her father's second job. When they heard that Kazuki was a comedian and Rie was an oil magnate, the parents started discussing the two of them, who had apparently come to school to watch Miri's presentation. Kazuki and Rie were relieved that Kyutaro didn't harm them for taking care of Miri. On the night they picked up Miri from the bar where she had fallen asleep, Kyutaro allowed them to continue looking after her on the condition that she wouldn't interfere with their work. There he warned them that if Miri disrupted their work, he wouldn't hesitate to remove her. Their work required constant focus. Kyutaro explained that he allowed Kazuki and Rie to care for Miri because he saw her as a source of joy and hoped she could bring positive change to their lives. However, he also reminded them that they must be prepared to distance themselves from loved ones because their work could put those around them in danger. In the present, Kazuki watched news about misbehaving children who lacked discipline and were overly pampered by their parents. He began to worry that Miri might become a delinquent because he spoiled her too much. As a result, he decided to become a stricter parent to ensure she would grow up to be a better person. On another day, Kazuki went to pick up Miri from school, and Anna informed him that Miri had recently gotten into a fight with one of her classmates. There, Anna asked Kazuki to talk to Miri about the fight and offer her some guidance. When they got home and Miri and Rie were playing video games, Kazuki took the opportunity to ask Miri about the school fight. At first, she didn't want to admit it, but eventually, she told him about her classmate Taiga, who was being naughty. Soon after, Kazuki continued to ask questions, which upset Miri because she felt he was being too overprotective. She even said that she hated him before storming off to her room. This shocked Kazuki, as he didn't expect her to react that way. The next morning, Kazuki prepared a special lunch for Miri, as a way to apologize for being too protective. When Miri came down for breakfast, she was still angry with Kazuki and refused to talk to him. She asked Rie to take her to school, even though Kazuki usually did that. Seeing that Miri hadn't forgiven him, Kazuki felt even sadder. After Rie dropped Miri off at school, Kazuki realized that he had forgotten to give her some supplies, so he hurriedly went out to deliver them. Then he met Rai outside the house, who had just accompanied Miri, and learned that she had gone to the zoo on a school field trip. Kazuki still wanted to give her the supplies, so he asked Rie to go with him to the zoo to find her. At the zoo, Anna reminded Miri's school group to stick together so they wouldn't get lost. After her instructions, all the students started exploring the zoo to see various animals. While Miri and her two friends, Kodori and Hinata, were observing some monkeys, a boy named Taiga suddenly startled them and scared away the monkeys. Miri and her friends were annoyed by Taiga's antics and considered staying away from him. In response, Taiga walked off on his own, causing concern for Miri and the others, who decided to follow him to ensure he didn't get lost. Unbeknownst to them, Kazuki and Rai had arrived at the zoo, unaware of a fugitive who had entered the area. As for Miri and her friends, they tried to convince Taiga to rejoin the group, but in the process, they lost track of their schoolmates. Despite this, Miri assured her friends that they would eventually reunite with their group. Meanwhile, Kazuki, who was up in a tree, was searching for Miri and spotted her holding hands with Taiga through his binoculars. Kazuki had various thoughts and worries, fearing that Miri might turn into a mischievous girl because of her boyfriend. Without realizing it, he began venting his frustration from the tree, startling many zoo visitors with his behavior. Rie, who was standing guard beneath the tree, remained quiet and tried to ignore Kazuki's growing irritation, especially when he saw Taiga walking with Kodori and Hinata, whom Kazuki suspected were Taiga's girlfriends. After locating Miri, Kazuki and Rie discreetly followed her as they knew she and her friends were lost. Miri seemed to sense their presence and looked back several times to confirm. Kazuki and Rie quickly hid to avoid suspicion. Meanwhile, Taiga, who had walked a fair distance, contemplated giving up, but Miri encouraged him to keep searching for their school group. Hearing Miri's words, Kazuki realized that Taiga was the male student she had previously mentioned to him. As Miri and her companions grew tired from their long walk, they decided to take a break near a food cart. When Taiga accidentally spilled a drink on himself, Miri kindly helped him clean his clothes with a handkerchief. At that time, Taiga seems touched by Miri's kindness, even though he had often bothered her before. At the same time, a hungry fugitive took several boxes of food from an unattended food cart. Miri, witnessing this, scolded the fugitive and asked him to pay for the food he had taken. However, he ignored her and even threatened to harm her. Unexpectedly, someone threw a stone at the fugitive's hand, and the cart owner arrived, making the fugitive to return the stolen food before hastily leaving the area. Shortly after, Miri and her friends continued their journey until they stumbled upon a car play area, which sparked a connection between Miri and Taiga, since they both loved toy cars. While chatting, Miri told Taiga that she only loved Raya. This confession annoyed Kazuki, who overheard it. In contrast, Raya was beaming with happiness, feeling like a great father in Miri's eyes. A little while later, Miri and her friends decided to take a break in the park after failing to find their school group. When Miri opened her bag to retrieve her lunch to share with her friends, she was shocked to find her bag empty. However, Taiga surprised her by offering an onigiri, expressing his desire to be friends. He also promised to become a better student and apologized to Miri and her friends. This led to a reconciliation, and the four of them had lunch together. Unfortunately, the pleasant moment was disrupted when the fugitive, still having a grudge against Miri, tried to snatch their food. At that moment, Miri and her friends tried to resist, but the fugitive took Taiga hostage and brandished a gun at Miri. Fortunately, two clowns intervened, overpowering the fugitive until he passed out. The rabbit clown even destroyed the toy gun the fugitive had used to intimidate them. Miri and her friends expressed their gratitude to the two clowns, unaware that they were actually Kazuki and Rie in disguise, who had come to help Miri. In the costume room, the real clowns were bewildered as their costumes had mysteriously disappeared. Soon after, Miri and her friends reunited with their school group, and Anna was delighted to see that Miri had reconciled with Taiga. Meanwhile, Kazuki and Rie, who had been hiding, felt thankful and proud of Miri's newfound independence. Kazuki regretted being overly protective of her. After school, when Miri got home, she gave Kazuki a big hug, even though she was mad at him earlier. She also told him about two funny clowns who helped her at the zoo. Rie, who had come to pick up Miri, gave Kazuki a note from Anna, explaining that Miri wasn't fighting with Taiga, but was actually trying to stop him from causing trouble at school. After reading the note, Kazuki apologized to Miri for worrying about him too much. Later, at Kyutoro's bar, a woman named Izumi Korine, who is Kazuki's late wife Kurusu Yuzoko's younger sister, came to meet Kyutoro. On another rainy day, Kazuki was seen picking up Miri, who was happy until her umbrella broke and fell into the middle of the road. Luckily, Kazuki stopped her from running into traffic, but it reminded him of his sad past. Then he promised to buy her a new umbrella. When he got home, Miri didn't put her things away properly, so Kazuki had to clean up after her. Ray was busy playing games, so Kazuki always ended up cleaning the house by himself. After dinner, Kazuki got annoyed again when Miri and Rie left their dirty plates. While looking for thread and a needle to sew Miri's name on her towel, Kazuki accidentally found a photo of his late wife Yuzuko, which brought back memories of their time together. The next day, after Kazuki had gone grocery shopping, he was surprised to see Korine suddenly appear. He quickly ran away and hid in a narrow alley. Unfortunately, he ended up running into two flirtatious women, so he quickly left after making sure Korine didn't see him. He was shocked when one of the flirtatious women commented that he looked happy. Later, while doing laundry, Kazuki couldn't stop thinking about what the woman had said about happiness. He mumbled that he didn't feel happy at all, especially since his daily routine involved cleaning the house and dealing with Miri's bullying. During dinner, Rie and Miri were discussing people who don't like vegetables. Kazuki, feeling frustrated, asked about the meaning of life, but neither Rie nor Miri paid attention. He took their food away, telling them not to eat if they didn't like what was served. Kazuki got angry and locked himself in his room. The next morning, Miri woke Rie because Kazuki hadn't cooked breakfast as usual. She asked Rie to cook, and he found a note from Kazuki saying that he was taking a break. Rie realized that Kazuki was still upset about their behavior the previous night, as he had left the house without eating and in a mess. Despite this, Rie, who didn't really care about the cleanliness of the house, took the food and ate with Miri. He then helped Miri get ready for school, even though it was raining heavily. Meanwhile, Kazuki was at Kyutoro's bar because he was upset with Rie for not helping him take care of Miri. He left Rie at home on purpose to see if Rie could handle looking after Miri by himself. Kyutoro, who overheard Kazuki's complaints, mentioned that Kazuki seemed happier and had changed. He also gave Kazuki back the money he used to set aside for Korine since she had refused it. Kyutaro advised Kazuki to talk to his sister-in-law before the anniversary of Yuzoko's death, but Kazuki, not wanting to remember his painful memories, decided to leave the bar. On the other hand, Rie arrived at the school gate, only to realize it was Sunday and school was closed. Meanwhile, Kazuki went to a casino to entertain himself and ended up winning some bets. At the same time, Rie struggled to take care of Miri, who had caught a cold from the morning rain when they went to school. Later that night, a drunk Kazuki walked unsteadily through the streets and accidentally bumped into a man. Back at home, Rie noticed that Kazuki seemed to have purposely abandoned both himself and Miri, as Kazuki didn't return home until very late. Meanwhile, Kazuki met Corinne, who wanted to talk to him, but he walked away, ignoring her. There, Corinne tried to get him to talk about his job, but he continued to ignore her questions until she finally revealed that Yuzoko's death wasn't Kazuki's fault. Kazuki, however, still believed he was responsible for her death and denied her words. On the day Yuzuko passed away, Kazuki had a mission to carry out. Unfortunately, his target managed to escape in a car, and his partner Ryo tried to stop the car by shooting from a distance. This caused the target's car to crash into a gas tanker on the road. Yuzuko was nearby and became a victim when the gas tank exploded. Kazuki couldn't save her because everything happened so fast, and he felt guilty for her death ever since. Fast forward to the present, Rie is at home and gets worried when Miri gets a fever. He tries to call Kazuki many times, but Kazuki, who is on a train, ignores Rie's calls. In a hurry, Rie decides to take Miri to the hospital and goes to Kyutaro's bar to ask for directions to the nearest hospital. Meanwhile, Kazuki visits Yuzoko's grave to remember her, as she holds a special place in his heart. At that time, he sits in a gazebo, reminiscing about their first meeting and how they decided to get married. Not too long after, Corinne approached Kazuki and encouraged him to find happiness after Yuzoko's passing. She believed that Yuzuko would be happy to see Kazuki move on from the past and live a fulfilling life. Corinne also shared how she achieved her dream of studying abroad to show Yuzuko that she lived happily. She knew that Kazuki was taking care of a girl and hoped that this could bring more happiness into his life. After listening to everything, Corinne said Kazuki decided to go back home. When he arrived, he found the house in a mess. He searched for Rie, who was sleeping in Miri's room while taking care of her, as she was sick. Kazuki smiled proudly, seeing that Rie was doing a good job looking after Miri. The next day, Rie and Miri tried to make toast as an apology to Kazuki for all the trouble they caused. Unfortunately, their cooking turned out messy, so Kazuki said he would buy food for them. A few days later, when Rie was getting ready to visit his parents, Miri reminded him to come back home quickly because she and Kazuki were planning a surprise birthday party for him. Rie's parents lived in a fancy house with tight security, and when he arrived, he met his father, Suwa Shigeki, who was the leader of the organization where Rie worked as an assassin. Meanwhile, Kazuki and Miri were at the supermarket, and Miri asked about Rie's father. There, Kazuki told her that Rie's father was a very strict and cruel person. Miri remembered her strict teacher, which surprised Kazuki. At Shigeki's house, despite not having seen his son for a long time, Shigeki didn't seem to welcome Rie warmly. Their relationship was more like a boss and subordinate, and since childhood, Rie had to address his father as boss. Then, when Rie entered his father's study, Shigeki told him to go back home. On the other hand, while cooking, Kazuki shared the first time he met Rie, who seemed emotionless like a robot. When Miri heard the word robot, she thought Rie could shoot lasers from his eyes, which surprised Kazuki even more. When she asked if Rie would reconcile with Shigeki, Kazuki only said that if it happened, Rie would choose to live with his father. As for Shigeki, he asked Rie to start learning how to lead their organization because Rie was from the Suwa family and Shigeki planned to retire soon. Hearing that, Rie declined the request, and Shigeki suspected that Kazuki might have influenced Rie. At that time, Rie denied this and said he needed time to think about Shigeki's offer. Shigeki then gave Rie a mission file to eliminate a traitor within the organization, which Rie had to complete quickly. When Rie saw his target, he was surprised because he knew the person he had to eliminate. After leaving his father's room, Rie contacted Kazuki to let him know he would be coming home late due to a mission. Nevertheless, Kazuki asked Rie to come home right away, because he and Miri had prepared something for him. Rie hung up the phone and met Ryo, who was waiting to take him on a mission from Shigeki. In the car, Rai opened his mission document, which required him to eliminate his mentor, Satoru. Satoru had taught him various skills to become a professional assassin, but was now considered a traitor to the organization. He had a relationship with a woman, violating the organization's rule against members getting married. As a result, the organization targeted the woman, leading to her tragic death. Satoru became a fugitive from the organization for breaking the rules. Back in the present, when Rie arrived at his target's location, Ryo asked Rie to share the last words spoken by Satoru before he died, as Ryo enjoyed hearing the final words of the people they targeted for assassination. Rie then entered a warehouse where Satoru had been waiting, knowing that Rie had come to finish him off. During that time, Satoru wanted to test Rie's abilities, and they got into a fierce shootout because both of them were highly skilled. Meanwhile, Miri and Kazuki were eagerly waiting for Rie to come home so they could celebrate their birthday together. However, as it got late at night, Miri, feeling sleepy, suggested to Kazuki that she wanted to go to sleep. In an empty building, Rie and Satoru continued their fight even after running out of ammunition. When Rie had a chance to finish off Satoru, he hesitated because he couldn't bring himself to harm his mentor, who had taught him everything about being a professional assassin. However, Satoru actually asked Rie to complete his mission by ending his life. Suddenly, Satoru fell from the top floor of the building after crashing into a rusty iron fence. Realizing that Satoru had passed away, Rie descended from the top floor of the empty building. He remained silent when Ryo asked about Satoru's last words before his death. Rai requested to be left alone to reflect on what he had just done to his mentor. Some time later, Rai received a phone call from Kazuki, but he purposely ignored it. Eventually, Kazuki tracked Rie's location using a tracking device he had installed on Rie's phone and picked him up in his car. On the way home, Kazuki informed Rie that Miri was eagerly waiting for him at home. They'd also talked about the time when Kazuki first moved into Rie's messy house. With Kazuki's presence, Rie's once chaotic life started to improve, especially because Kazuki took care of cleaning the house and preparing meals for him. When Rie arrived home, he found Miri fast asleep on the sofa, and he was pleasantly surprised because Kazuki and Miri had prepared a simple birthday party for him. At that time, Miri, in her half-asleep state, started singing a birthday song for Rie, making him smile at her cute behavior. Meanwhile, Ryo went to Kyutaro's bar to assign a secret mission to gather information about Miri, who was currently living with Kazuki and Rie. On another day, as they were gearing up for the school sports festival, Miri was practicing running with Kazuki and Rie to prepare for the upcoming competition. Kazuki was offering her encouragement, while Rie gave Miri some advice as if she were a professional track athlete, which left her a bit puzzled. After their training session, they stopped by Kyutaro's bar to take a break, and Kyutaro looked sad, knowing that Kazuki and Rie's happiness would soon be disrupted because he had a mission to remove Miri from the picture. On the night before the sports festival, Rai was outside the house, completing his secret mission. When he returned home, Kazuki asked about the mission, but Rie didn't reveal any details to him. The following morning, Rie, seeing Kazuki busy in the kitchen, offered to help, surprising Kazuki to the point where he thought Rie might be unwell. Nonetheless, Kazuki was touched by Rie's willingness to assist, and after finishing all the work, they had breakfast with Miri, who enjoyed a variety of her favorite dishes. During the school sports festival, many parents gathered to celebrate, including Kazuki and Rie, who came to support Miri. As they looked for a place to sit, Rie pointed to an area that he had fenced off using sharp iron, ensuring that no other parents would occupy it. This was part of the secret mission Rai had carried out the night before, to secure a spot where they could watch Miri without interference from other parents. Once Kazuki and Rie were seated in their reserved spot, they took out their expensive cameras to capture pictures of Miri, just like the other parents were doing. Their Kazuki seemed to be more familiar with the parents of other students, who knew about Kazuki and Rie's occupations as a comedian and an oil magnate. Soon after, the sports festival began, and all the participants, including Miri, were asked to walk so their parents could take photographs. During the opening ceremony, Miri was chosen as the student representative to give a speech, which made Kazuki and Rie very proud of her. The festival included various competitions like dancing while throwing balls, tug-of-war against the teachers, and group gymnastics. When Kazuki and Rie saw Miri in the same group as Taiga, they both looked annoyed and were not happy about her being close to her male friend. During the break time, All the participants were invited to enjoy the lunches they had brought with them. Kazuki had prepared a lot of food and generously offered it to other students and parents. On the other hand, Ria felt a bit embarrassed to share his homemade rice balls until he revealed that he had included chocolate cereal as a filling. Kazuki got a bit annoyed with Ria's behavior, but to their surprise, Miri and the others actually enjoyed the rice balls, which made Ria quite happy. As the running competition approached, Miri was determined to win a gold medal, just as she had hoped during her training. Although she felt nervous at the start of the race, Miri refused to give up, especially with Kazuki cheering her on. Ria, seeing Miri starting to fall behind, also shouted words of encouragement to her, not wanting to be outdone by Kazuki. However, this unexpected encouragement from Rai startled Miri and caused her to trip and fall during the race. Consequently, Miri only managed to secure a bronze medal, but Kazuki continued to support and encourage her, even though she didn't win the gold medal. In contrast, Ria felt guilty for inadvertently causing Miri to stumble and miss her chance at the gold. After all the competitions were completed, there was a special event where students could compete with their parents. Miri eagerly participated in all the contests and was determined to achieve her dream of winning a gold medal. During a marshmallow eating competition, Kazuki lifted Miri so she could reach the marshmallows hanging from a rope. In the sack race that followed, Kazuki and Miri had to forfeit after falling, but they both got up, continued the race, and finished it together. In the final race, each participant received a card with items they had to bring into the arena and then run to the finish line to win. Miri took the challenge paper and unexpectedly invited Ria and Kazuki to run with her. The two dads worked together, lifted Miri, and raced to the finish line, ultimately winning the competition. Miri was overjoyed to finally have her dream gold medal, while Ria and Kazuki were curious about what was written on the challenge paper she had picked. There, Miri revealed that it said family, which touched Kazuki and Ria deeply because she considered them her family. At the festival's closing ceremony, Anna approached the three of them and suggested taking a photo together as a keepsake. Although they initially hesitated because the photo could potentially reveal Miri's identity and endanger her, Miri insisted, and eventually Kazuki and Ria agreed. On their way home, they were filled with happiness because Miri had won a gold medal. During the walk, Kazuki praised Ria for encouraging Miri and expressed hopes of winning another gold medal at the next year's sports festival. On another school occasion, Anna trained the students to practice singing songs for a performance at the Christmas Eve party. She tried to sing the song herself as an example, but her off-key voice became the subject of laughter among the students. Miri volunteered to sing instead because she had previously sung the song with Misaki. On the other hand, Kazuki and Ria were on their way to pick up Miri from school when they were surprised to see Misaki waiting at the school gate. When they asked why she was there, Misaki admitted that she had come to pick up her daughter. This revelation shocked Kazuki and Ria because up until now, Misaki had abandoned Miri and refused to take care of her, mainly because Miri was the result of an affair with an irresponsible man. When Miri left her classroom, she welcomed Misaki happily, surprising Kazuki and Ria, who then invited Misaki to bring Miri to their house. Once they arrived home, Miri excitedly shared all the wonderful things Kazuki and Ria had provided for her, from her room to her clothes and other luxury items. She also expressed her desire to eat a hamburger made by Misaki, making Misaki go shopping and prepare Miri's favorite meal. Kazuki, seeing his kitchen being used by someone else, felt a bit annoyed, but he couldn't bring himself to say anything. After they finished dinner, Miri mentioned her singing assignment at school and invited Misaki to sing together. However, Misaki explained that she couldn't sing like before because she had a special condition. When Miri fell asleep, Kazuki and Ria asked Misaki why she had suddenly decided to reconnect with Miri. Showing a wound on her neck, Misaki explained that she could no longer sing and had lost her job due to the injury. This made her realize her past selfishness and mistakes, especially in regard to abandoning Miri. She wanted to make amends and open a new chapter with Miri before it was too late. Misaki also mentioned her plan to rent an apartment so she could live with Miri as soon as possible, because she had learned about Kazuki and Ria's jobs, which could potentially put Miri in danger. Before leaving, Misaki assured them that she would pick up Miri the next day. Soon after, Kazuki and Ria went to Kyutaro's bar to share the news of Misaki's arrival. It turned out that Misaki had learned about Kazuki and Ria's work, and where they lived through information provided by Kyutaro. During their conversation, Kyutaro informed them that Ryo had targeted Miri because they believed she was a problem to Kazuki and Rie's work. Kyutaro also explained that he had a secret mission to gather information about Miri, and he couldn't defy the organization's orders because traitors were dealt with severely. Given the circumstances, the best way to ensure Miri's safety was to allow her to live peacefully with Misaki. The following day, Kazuki woke Rie and Miri early in the morning as they were planning to spend the day together before Miri went with Misaki. They enjoyed a fun-filled day at an amusement park, riding various attractions. There, Kazuki secretly messaged Misaki to arrange for her to pick up Miri later in the afternoon. They continued to have a great time together, sharing meals, going on more rides, and even taking a ride on the Ferris wheel. During their day out, Kazuki and Rie acknowledged how difficult it was to part with Miri, but they understood it was necessary for her safety. After a day of fun, they finally took Miri to meet up with Misaki, who had been waiting for her. Kazuki assured Miri that she could spend the night with Misaki, and they parted ways. From that day onward, Kazuki and Rie's lives became dull and empty without Miri at home. While cleaning Miri's room, Kazuki stumbled upon her drawing board, which only deepened his longing for her. However, they knew they had made this sacrifice for Miri's well-being, ensuring she wouldn't be targeted by the organization. One day, Rie talked to Kazuki about returning to the Suwa family's house after the new year. He wanted to entrust the apartment to Kazuki, but Kazuki declined, saying he preferred to stay at their previous house. Meanwhile, Miri seemed to be having a great time with Misaki, enjoying her favorite hamburger that Misaki had prepared. The following day, Kazuki went to Kyutaro's bar in search of a job, but Kyutaro refused because Kazuki was still in danger. Meanwhile, Rie met with Shigeki to discuss the possibility of becoming the next leader of the organization. While Miri had finished practicing singing for the Christmas Eve performance, she asked Misaki when Kazuki and Rie would come to take her home. Misaki explained to her daughter that Kazuki and Rie were not her biological fathers. However, Miri insisted on considering the two hitmen as her fathers because they both loved her. She even hoped that the four of them could live together. Hearing this, Misaki felt sad and hugged her daughter, realizing that this might not be possible. As for Rie, after agreeing to take over his father's leadership role, Shigeki showed him a photo of Rie with Miri and Kazuki, while suggesting that Miri was hindering Rie's work and needed to be eliminated. Hearing this, Rie pleaded with Shigeki not to harm her, especially now that she was living with him and Kazuki. Unfortunately, Shigeki refused Rie's request and was determined to carry out the execution of Miri. This making Rie to immediately contact Kazuki and inform him that Miri was in danger. After receiving this information, Kazuki attempted to call Misaki, but she didn't answer because she was going to the front door in response to a knock. She believed it was a courier, even though she hadn't ordered anything. To her surprise, when she opened the door, it was Ryo, who had posed as a courier, and he shot her in the stomach. Misaki lay in pain on the floor, and just as Ryo was about to finish her off, Kazuki arrived just in time to rescue her. The two assassins then engaged in a fight, but Ryo managed to corner Kazuki and shoot him in the right shoulder. Fortunately, Kazuki quickly pretended to call the police, which led to law enforcement surrounding Misaki's house. This forced Ryo to flee before getting caught. Kazuki then approached Misaki, who had lost a lot of blood due to the gunshot wound in her stomach. Meanwhile, Kyutaro came to help Kazuki and carried Miri, who was sleeping. While resting on Kazuki's lap, Misaki delivered her final message, asking him to protect Miri. In her last moments, she gently touched Miri one last time and apologized for being a selfish parent before passing away. A little while later, Kyutaro took Kazuki and Miri, who were still asleep, to his secret base, which was his house. They planned to stay there for some time until it was safer outside. Upon arriving at the secret base, Kyutaro laid Miri down to sleep on the sofa and assured Kazuki that they would be safe there for a while. Soon after, Rie arrived, and he felt relieved when he saw that Miri was okay. Kazuki then told Rie about Ryo's attack, including the sad news that Misaki didn't survive. There, Kazuki also shared his plan to help Miri escape and create a new identity for her, making it look like she had passed away, and then leaving her in an orphanage far away from the city. Hearing this plan, Rie strongly disagreed because he wanted to take care of Miri, who had brought so much change to his life. Rie tried to convince Kazuki that they should continue caring for Miri. During their conversation, Miri woke up suddenly and asked about her mother, Misaki. There, Kazuki explained that Misaki was away. Seeing Miri, who had lost her mother, Kazuki found it difficult to leave her behind, so he eventually agreed to Ri's plan as long as Rai had to help with the housework. Without hesitation, he agreed to Kazuki's conditions. After their discussion, Kazuki and Ri approached Kyutaro, who was busy preparing food in the kitchen. They informed him that they had decided to stop being hitmen because they wanted to take care of Miri without putting her life in danger. This was their way of taking responsibility for not being able to protect Misaki, who had been Miri's only family. After some time, Kazuki, Ri, and Miri looked content living at Kyutaro's house. Ri also kept his promise to help Kazuki with cooking, and when Kazuki tasted it, he thought Ri's cooking wasn't too bad. On another day, when they believed it was safe enough, Kazuki and Ria planned to take Miri to school. As they stood in front of the house, Kazuki asked Miri what Christmas gifts she wanted, but she mentioned that she had already told Misaki about it. When the three of them arrived at school and met Anna, Kazuki and Ria assured Miri that they would attend the Christmas Eve performance even though Misaki couldn't be there. Miri said she would sing loudly so that Misaki could hear her voice during the performance. Kazuki and Ri, having entrusted Miri to Anna, then met Kyutaro at their agreed-upon location to collect some items they had ordered. On that day, they had plans to meet with Shigeki to discuss their future in the organization. Before leaving, they asked Kyutaro to take care of Miri if they didn't return after meeting with the organization's leadership. While in the car, Rai opened the item Kyutaro had given them, which turned out to be Santa Claus costumes they planned to wear for Miri's school Christmas Eve event. Soon after, they hurried to the organization's headquarters. Upon arrival at the gate, they encountered several guards on duty who inspected them. Unfortunately, Kazuki was denied to go in because he wasn't a member of the Suwa family, which frustrated him. Consequently, they were forced to incapacitate some guards and quickly get into the car, heading toward the main headquarters building. This action made all troops to mobilize in an attempt to arrest them. Kazuki and Ria found themselves dodging gunfire from several guards. Their escape was stopped by Ryu, who managed to make Kazuki's car crash into a wall. Luckily, Kazuki and Rai had reached the door. In this intense situation, they teamed up to confront and subdue the pursuing guards. During this, Kazuki encountered Ryo and came close to losing his life when Ria didn't arrive in time to rescue him. Then a fierce gunfight happened involving the three of them until Ryo managed to shoot Kazuki. Fortunately, Kazuki was wearing a bulletproof vest, which saved him from a fatal injury. As they faced a dire situation, Kazuki tried to lure Ryo by suggesting he would reveal Misaki's final words before he died. Ryo, who had a peculiar obsession with hearing someone's last words, eagerly pursued Kazuki into the kitchen area. However, Kazuki was eventually immobilized after Ryo shot him in the leg. In this dire moment, Kazuki decided to tell Misaki's last message and tried to detonating a gas cylinder with a lighter in his hand. At the same moment, Ryo was preparing to harm Kazuki, but Ria arrived unexpectedly, disrupting Ryo's intentions. This led to a confrontation between them, with Ryo attempting to strangle Ria. Kazuki couldn't stand by and immediately grabbed a kitchen knife, stabbing it into the back of Ryo's neck. Ria also forcefully struck Ryo's head against his own, ultimately causing the hitman's death with a knife lodged in his neck. Before departing, Kazuki and Ria ignited a gas canister in the kitchen, causing an explosion. Following this, Ria asked Kazuki to prepare the car and assured him that he wouldn't need to meet with Shigeki, because Ria would handle the situation with his father. Hearing that, Kazuki agreed to this plan, and Ria entered his father's room to convey his and Kazuki's intention to leave the organization. However, Shigeki vehemently opposed this idea, particularly because Ria was a descendant of the Suwa family. Feeling that Shigeki was unwilling to negotiate, Ria challenged his father to a shooting duel. After Shigeki was shot, he cautioned Ria that his men would pursue him if he killed him. Upon hearing this, Ria admitted that he couldn't bring himself to shoot Shigeki, who had given him the experience of surviving on his own until he met people who brought new meaning to his life. Although Kazuki and Miri weren't related to Ria by blood, they had become a close-knit family to him. As a result, he decided to sever his ties with the organization, symbolized by shooting his own arm to indicate that he could no longer be relied upon by the organization. Ria bid farewell to his father, marking a significant turning point in his life. After meeting with Kazuki, Ria quickly left the organization's headquarters to attend Miri's school Christmas Eve performance, where parents were gathered to watch their children perform. At that time, Miri was eager to find her father and mother in the audience but couldn't spot them. However, her disappointment turned into joy when she saw Kazuki and Ria entering the event wearing Santa Claus costumes. After the performance ended, Miri approached them, delighted that they had come to see her on stage. Soon after, Anna approached them and offered to take a photo of the three of them together. In the end, Miri had grown into a high school student and Kazuki and Ria had transitioned into new careers as entrepreneurs, fulfilling their dream of opening a cafe. As they opened their cafe, Miri visited them and asked them to step outside for a moment to take a photo to commemorate her first day of high school. At that moment, three of them look happy, living as a loving family. The anime ends. The moral lesson from this anime: if you want to escape from dangerous hitmen and start a new life, just wear Santa Claus costumes and crash a Christmas Eve school performance, cause it's foolproof.